Hello, everybody. Welcome to our YouTube show, The Biotech Shield, where IT security meets science. And this is where we provide IT insights for the biotech frontier. I am your host, Fernando Leon. And the title of today's show is Why Biotech Research Has Become the Top Cyber Target. Now, let's get this show started. Biotech executives spend a large amount of energy protecting funding, partnerships, and financial systems. But today's attackers, today's cyber criminals, are not primarily chasing bank accounts. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but they're targeting something far more valuable: your research, drug discovery data, genomic analysis, and clinical trial results represent years of innovation and billions in potential market value. And in this episode, we're going to discuss a difficult question every biotech leader must, confront. Is your research the real cyber target? So let's start off with the shift no one talks about. Why hackers want research and not money. When most executives think about cybercrime, they imagine criminals stealing credit cards, redirecting payments, or encrypting servers with ransomware. Now, those attacks certainly exist. It's happening every day. Financial fraud and ransomware continue to cause billions of dollars in damage every year. We read about it almost every week, but the threat landscape surrounding biotech organizations is really evolving. And today's attackers are increasingly motivated by something far more strategic than financial theft. They are pursuing intellectual property, research data, drug discovery insights, clinical trial outcomes, genomic analysis, and proprietary formulas. The reality is simple. If an attacker steals financial records, the company suffers financial damage. But if someone steals 5 years of research, the consequences can permanently alter a company's competitive advantage. Think about it. I mean, you've worked so hard to create something and stolen overnight, not a great thing. And that's why many cybersecurity experts now prescribe or describe biotech intellectual property as one of the most valuable targets in the modern cyber economy. Companies like Moderna and Pfizer have demonstrated how a single breakthrough can reshape global healthcare. Those breakthroughs are not simply scientific achievements. They represent enormous commercial opportunity, and that opportunity attracts attention, not just from competitors, but from cyber adversaries who understand the value of research data. So the first question every biotech executive should ask is not, are hackers targeting our financial systems? That's not the question. The real question is, are attackers trying to access our research? Think about it. Is your research, have you determined how valuable your research is today? Now, to understand why research data attracts attackers, we need to understand the economics behind innovation. Developing a successful therapy often requires years of research, large amount of funding, complex clinical trials, regulatory approval, proprietary experimentation. By the time a therapy reaches the market, the organization may have invested hundreds of millions of dollars, sometimes billions, into just development. You haven't even gone to market yet. But the research behind that therapy often exists as digital data, laboratory results, genomic models, drug compound data, experimental methodologies. All of this information exists in databases, lab systems, and research networks. which means from a cyber perspective, those breakthroughs are only as secure as the infrastructure protecting them. Think about it. What is protecting your IP today? And that creates a powerful incentive for attackers. Because if someone gains access to the research pipeline, they don't need to repeat the experiments. They can simply steal the results. This is one reason intelligence agencies have repeatedly warned that biotechnology firms are prime targets for espionage. The incentive is enormous. Why spend 10 years developing a breakthrough when a cyber intrusion could reveal the answer within a day, weeks, right? Why do all that hard work when it could be easily stolen? Okay, well, let me think of some real incidents, something that's happened in the past, because proving the threat is really around the corner. Cybersecurity warnings about the biotech industry are not theoretical. Several real-world incidents demonstrate how serious the threat has become. For example, let's look at the ransomware breach at Enzo Clinical Labs. This disrupted operations and exposed sensitive data. While ransomware headlines focused on operational impact, the deeper concern across the industry was whether sensitive research data might also have been accessed. Similarly, during the global race to developing the COVID-19 vaccines, security agencies warned that nation-state actors were actively targeting pharmaceutical and biotech companies. Organizations like Pfizer and Moderna face attempted intrusions designed to obtain vaccine research. The objective was not financial fraud. It was intelligence gathering. And this is what makes the biotech threat landscape so unique. Attackers are not always trying to shut down your systems. Sometimes they simply want to watch quietly, lurk in the corner, to observe, to collect data slowly, and to extract intellectual property without being detected. Yes, this is happening. They have already done the research on how long a cyber criminal sits on average in networks. It's usually in the weeks, and that is not a good thing. Now, let's touch on the hidden vulnerabilities inside most labs. And here's where the conversation becomes a little uncomfortable. Most biotech companies invest heavily in protecting financial systems, but laboratory environments often evolve very differently. Lab networks grow organically as research expands. New instruments are added. New software platforms are installed. New collaborators connect to the environment. Over time, this creates a complex ecosystem of devices, systems, and users. And many of those systems were never designed with cybersecurity in mind. Common vulnerabilities include laboratory instruments running outdated operating systems. How many can relate to that? Research workstations lacking advanced endpoint protection. Easy fix, but it happens. Shared credentials across lab teams. Big no-no. Limited monitoring across research networks. And in some environments, security teams have full visibility into corporate IT infrastructure, but very limited visibility into laboratory networks. That means an attacker who gains access to research workstation could potentially explore the environment for weeks or months without being detected. It's proven. They've got the reports out there. Do the research. And this raises a question every biotech leader should think about. A question that sounds simple, but is surprisingly difficult to answer. Who is watching your network at 2 a.m. or on a Christmas morning? because cyber intrusions rarely occur during business hours. Cyber criminals don't work bank hours, guys. They're not a 9 to 5 type of organization. Or this happens quietly, late at night, during weekends, holidays, moments when the organization is focused on in other areas. Now, is management asking the following questions because they should? Why does detection matter more than prevention? Fair question. Many organizations still think about cybersecurity primarily in terms of prevention. You've got firewalls, antivirus software, access controls. These tools are important, but they are no longer sufficient just on their own. Modern attackers assume that defense exists. Cyber criminals' objective is not always to break the front door down. Instead, they focus on blending into normal activity. They may compromise a user account. They may gain access through a vulnerable endpoint. They may exploit a research collaboration platform. Once inside, the attacker behaves like a legitimate user, downloading files, accessing systems, moving quietly through the environment. No one's announcing themselves. No one is sounding the alarms that, hey, I'm here, guys. That's not the way it works. These guys are so stealthy in their movement. And this means that, well, the most important security capability today is not simply blocking threats. It's really about detecting suspicious behavior quickly, not in days or weeks. And that's why modern security strategies increasingly rely on technologies such as endpoint detection and response, SIM analytics, threat intelligence monitoring, data loss prevention, behavior analytics. These tools allow security teams to identify unusual patterns before major damage occurs. For example, unexpected data transfers from research servers, abnormal login activity, unusual access patterns to sensitive data sets. When those signals appear, security teams can investigate quickly and stop potential data exfiltration. So somebody needs to be watching at 2 a.m. This is not a 9 to 5 type of job. So let me ask the C-suite this question. Why do many biotech firms struggle with security? Let's address something many biotech leaders quietly acknowledge. Cybersecurity expertise is difficult to build internally. Biotech companies are designed to do extraordinary things, advance medicine, develop therapies, push scientific discovery forward. But running a 24-hour cybersecurity monitoring environment requires a completely different skill set. You've got security analysts, threat intelligence specialists, incident responders. Maintaining that capability internally can be extremely expensive and operationally complex. And many organizations simply don't have the resources to build a full-scale security operations center. It just doesn't make any sense. That doesn't mean that they're doing anything wrong. It just simply reflects the reality that cybersecurity has become its own specialized discipline, which is why many organizations are turning to managed security partners that will provide 24/7 monitoring to monitor environments designed specifically to detect threats early. Now, let's go over this model, the 24/7 security monitoring service, because this is one of the most powerful shifts happening across the biotech industry. And it's the adoption of, just ongoing security monitoring. Instead of relying on internal teams to watch systems during business hours, organizations implement security operations centers that monitor environments around the clock, nonstop. There's no holidays, no one calls in sick, no one goes on vacations. This is an always on solution. These environments analyze everything: network activity, endpoint behavior, authentication patterns, system logs. And when suspicious activity appears, analysts investigate immediately. This approach dramatically reduces the time attackers can remain inside a network undetected. And in many cases, these capabilities are delivered through managed security service providers who operate large-scale monitoring environments. Organizations like Single Point of Contact. My organization provides 24/7 security monitoring, SIM analytics, and advanced endpoint detection services designed to help biotech firms protect both users and your crown jewel, your intellectual property. The goal is simple: ensure that if someone attempts to access sensitive research data, the activity is detected immediately, not days, not weeks later, not months later, immediately. I'm talking minutes, okay? We don't have room for error here. This is critical to our organization. Now, the biotech industry exists because of innovation. Scientists spend years pursuing breakthroughs that can improve or even save human lives. Those breakthroughs deserve protection. But protecting innovation requires more than basic IT security. It requires a strategic approach that recognizes the value of intellectual property. Executives must ask difficult questions. Do we know who is accessing our research data? Do we have visibility into laboratory networks? Would we detect a quiet data exfiltration attempt? These questions may be a little uncomfortable, but they are essential because the stakes are enormous. A stolen data set is not just a cybersecurity incident. It is a loss of competitive advantage, a loss of scientific momentum, and potentially a loss of investor confidence. And you do not want to get to that point. You do not want to get to the point where a disaster occurs and now you have to go implement a solution. Let's prevent that, because biotech organizations exist to advance science and improve lives. But the research that drives those breakthroughs has become one of the most valuable targets in the cyber world. The question every executive must ask is really simple. Who is watching the network when your team goes home? Because protecting innovation requires more than good science. It requires vigilance. Now, if you found this valuable, subscribe for more biotech-specific cybersecurity insights. I share what I see on the front lines, from threat trends to protection strategies that actually work. So don't wait for the breach report to hit your desk. Stay ahead of the cyber threats. Don't forget to at least do your research and subscribe to our channel for more on cybersecurity in the biotech industry. Like, share, or leave us a comment.